Thanks for watching us at 8 o'clock. I'm Corey Rose.
And I'm Drew Carney. Again, that was a planned demolition. We knew that was going to happen. And because of that, they shut down a stretch of I-76 this morning. So Brianna has been keeping tabs on how that's impacted the morning commute. Brianna, first question, is that stretch of 76 still closed?
Nope, it's back open. All I'm noticing out there along I-76 out in Sterling, it's just pockets of slowdown in that area, but it's fully reopened. You're probably going to still see crews there on scene, so please take it nice and slow. Let's talk about what we're seeing along 225 near Yosemite. We are seeing a crash not far from the CDOT camera. We know that 2 left lanes are partially blocked with crews there still on scene, and it's kind of been like this in the past 30 minutes. So we're having to see that morning rush hour traffic plus that crash that has still been going on in that area. So please take it nice and slow because it's going to take you about 30 to 35 minutes this morning, slowing down to 20 miles per hour. I want to get to your drive times, especially if you're down south in Castle Rock. No issues to report this morning. Your drive is only easy breezy. You still have the green light. It's going to be 17 minutes from I-25 heading northbound to 225.
Brianna, thanks. Taking you outside this morning. Clear skies. It's a beautiful start to the morning. It is a touch hazy as we look off to the west to the foothills, our mountains. Snowpack a thing of the past, and it will be more of that summertime heat building in. It's not technically summer just yet. The solstice is early Sunday morning at 2:24 a.m. Now your weather headlines for this Thursday: warm, dry, upper 80s for both today and tomorrow in terms of our daytime highs. That is slightly above normal. Fire danger set to increase as we get into the weekend. Winds that we're watching for Saturday will be very gusty, and then that is ahead of a few more storm and shower chances entering into the Front Range forecast. This morning, though, it's 65 degrees. Winds have been relatively calm this morning. Humidity levels higher, and we do have an ozone action alert day, so some stagnant conditions expected across the urban corridor where we're right now in the 60s, downtown out to the airport, and then 40s and 50s in the mountains. Just not as windy as what we saw yesterday, which is nice. Calmer conditions off to our west. Still a touch blustery up over Berthoud Pass down into Centennial. We've seen wind gusts around 25 miles per hour this morning. Those will stay pretty calm, though, as we get into the afternoon, which is why we have an ozone action day alert in place until 4 o'clock. Higher concentrations of ground level ozone get the heating of the day. In and around the urban areas here for the Denver area, just expect upper 80s and then some reduced air quality. But the winds pick up. We'll stay under a mostly clear sky. UV index high may stay cool by the pool, and a high of 88 degrees should be a nice day. Tomorrow, similar weather pattern. We'll talk more about the next chances for rain, though, coming up in just a few.
Katie, thank you. Well, Arapahoe County investigators are still searching for a missing 63-year-old man who hasn't been seen since last Friday. Kevin Bailey, a U.S. Air Force veteran, was last seen June 12th, leaving the Woodland Estates Senior Living Center on South Roslyn Street, telling an employee who was taking the bus to visit friends. Investigators say the last place his cell phone pinged was near East 36th Avenue and Akron Court, about 8 miles from where he lives. His phone is no longer active, and he has no access to money or a debit card. Bailey has not had his daily prescription medications now since June 11th, and investigators say missing them could be life-threatening.
He has a traumatic brain injury that has caused a dementia. He needs this medication to live.
Bailey's family believes he is still somewhere in Colorado and says he may be feeling lost or disoriented. They are asking anyone who spots him to show compassion and call 911. It may take months before we know why a skydiving plane crashed in Missouri last weekend.
We do know 12 people died, and among those 12 was a woman from Grand Junction, 55-year-old Jennifer Sharp. 9 News reporter Courtney Yoon is going to join us live here. So Courtney, we're hearing from a friend of Sharp's this morning who told us about the impact she had on the skydiving community.
Yes, that's right, Corey and Drew, and they're saying that she's leaving a really big legacy behind. So that crash happened on Sunday shortly after departing Butler Memorial Airport in Missouri, and we do know that all 12 of the people who are on board were killed, including 55-year-old Jennifer Sharp from Grand Junction. So according to her blog that we found online, Sharp had been skydiving since she was 18 years old. She had completed more than 6,800 skydives since 1989, including at least one time right into Coors Field. Sharp was also a mother and a grandmother. The crash happened about 65 miles south of Kansas City. Among the other victims were people from Pennsylvania, Missouri, Kansas, and a 24-year-old from India. Our NBC News partners in Grand Junction, KKCO, spoke with friends of Sharp. Bob Lewis says Sharp was one of the only skydivers in the world who taught instructors.
Losing her leaves a big hole in the sport as far as education, as far as training, just the brain power. Because she was probably the biggest brain in the sport without anybody really realizing.
The National Transportation Safety Board and the Federal Aviation Administration are investigating the cause of this crash. So far, they don't know what happened, and it may take months until they find out more. Live in Denver, Courtney Yoon, 9 News.
All right, thank you, Courtney. The city of Fort Collins has agreed to pay close to $400,000 to settle a lawsuit after police pepper sprayed a man at close range in 2021. It happened after 2 officers responded to a call that claimed 2 men were trespassing on the roof at Brothers Bar and Grill in Old Town. When officers got there, the men were no longer on the roof, but an officer later ended up tackling one of them to the ground and then sprayed him in the face. The man says he now has permanent haze in his vision. The charges against him were later dismissed. The lawsuit claims that the officer used excessive force while unlawfully arresting him, but an internal affairs investigation found that the officer did not violate any policies. The city says it settled the suit to avoid continued costs, but it is not admitting to any liability or any wrongdoing.
An animal sanctuary owner in Boulder County says a recently installed utility pole is leaking a toxic chemical onto his property. Nico Novelli runs an animal sanctuary in Coal Creek Canyon and says he noticed a substance dripping from a pole that was recently installed on his land. He believes the pole was treated with a wood preservative that the EPA ordered to be phased out over health concerns.
Knowingly and intentionally putting it into the middle of an animal sanctuary is irresponsible, to put it mildly.
Novelli says he is concerned the chemical could contaminate the soil where his rescued animals live. Lumen, the company that owns CenturyLink, says Novelli's claims are without merit and notes that those types of poles are commonly used across the country. The company says it's offered to remove the poles, but Novelli says removal alone would not address what he believes is contaminated soil.
Work is now underway on a new FDA lab at the Denver Federal Center in Lakewood. The federal government released these renderings of this $228 million project. They say the lab will expand the FDA's research abilities, managing foodborne illness outbreaks, and also helping to determine whether food, drugs, and cosmetics align with safety standards. The new lab will replace an existing lab in a former munitions building on campus. The project, by the way, is not expected to be finished until sometime in the year 2029.
Jefferson County Public Schools will soon have a temporary superintendent while they search for a permanent replacement. The school board selected Dr. Rob Stein to fill that role starting July 6th. He was most recently the superintendent of Roaring Fork Schools over in the Glenwood Springs area. He'll temporarily replace Tracy Dorlin, who announced her resignation last month. She didn't fully explain why she was leaving, only saying there was a new opportunity. The board will take an official vote on Stein's appointment later today. The school board says it's conducting a national search for their permanent superintendent. They say they'll post a timeline online before the new school year starts.